Culture is one of the most popular buzzwords in business today. Lots of people talk about it, very few know how to use it. Truth is, culture is not just a business concept. Anytime two or more elements come together, culture is formed. Your body is made up of billions of cells, all participating in an internal culture. Every marriage has a culture. Every family has a culture. Every business has a culture. The question is not whether culture exists. The question is, what stage is it in? You see, culture develops along a continuum. Most cultures move through the first two stages, but very few ever reach the third. And the difference between them determines whether a body, a marriage, a family, or a business drifts, stabilizes, or scales. Stage one is organic culture. This is the default culture. Organic culture is what forms naturally when people live and work together. It grows from personalities, habits, and unspoken norms. It reflects the learned behavior, the earliest team dynamics, and the circumstances of the marriage, family, and business. Now, at this stage, standards are informal. Expectations are implied. Accountability is probably inconsistent. Things that work because there's excitement and novelty and a genuine desire to make everything work. Decisions happen quickly, and everyone's still figuring things out together. Organic culture can feel strong early on because everyone shares a common struggle, but it rarely scales well because it's built on circumstances instead of intention. Over time, what once felt natural begins to feel chaotic. In marriage, this is the honeymoon phase, when everything is possible and the reality of life hasn't taken its toll. In a family, this is the first child or two when it's easy to just do things yourself. In a company, most founder-led companies exist in this stage until they collapse or situations challenge the founder to put structure in place to sustain the company. Stage two is intentional culture. Intentional culture begins when someone decides culture matters. In a marriage, it could be the husband or the wife or both. In a family, it's typically one or both of the parents. In a company, it's usually the founder or someone the founder has hired to fix the company. They start defining values. They create language around expectations. They introduce principles or operating norms. And this is where most people stop. The organization now has a culture that's structured. They have language and guiding principles. How we operate in the marriage or in the family. What's accepted? What's not? Conversations are about culture. And one or more of the leaders tries to reinforce it, but there's still a gap. The culture depends heavily on a few people to uphold it. Standards are discussed, but they're not always enforced. Leaders reinforce culture when they remember or when problems arise. Now, in a marriage, this is an issue because either the husband or the wife is carrying more of the responsibility for the culture. Now, that leads to issues down the road. In a family, this is mom and dad enforcing rules, deciding consequences, and holding the kids accountable. In business, it feels a lot like the same. The founder or a few people at the top carry the weight, enforce the standards, and push for buy-in. But the moment they relax, everything drops. Intentional culture is better than organic culture, but it still relies on pressure, leadership pressure to sustain it. And when that pressure disappears, the standards fade. Now, stage three is leadership culture. Leadership culture is when the culture is no longer dependent on just a few people. Everyone carries their part of it. Everyone knows how their part supports the rest. Standards are no longer enforced from the top. They're enforced by the peers, peer to peer. In a marriage, that means the husband holds himself accountable to the standard without the wife enforcing it. It means the wife is accountable for her part without the husband enforcing it. In a family, it's the kids upholding the standards without mom and dad reminding them. It's their siblings enforcing the standard, not the parents. In business, it's when the team holds each other accountable, not the supervisor. It's when everyone in the organization takes ownership of their part of the culture. Standards are understood, ownership is expected, and peers reinforce what matters. At this stage, culture becomes self-regulating. Leaders don't have to constantly correct behavior because the team holds the standard together. Leadership culture is where clarity spreads, accountability becomes normal, and execution begins to accelerate. It's also where scale becomes possible. The real difference, organic culture happens on its own. Intentional culture happens when leaders decide what they want the culture to be. Leadership culture happens when everyone becomes responsible for protecting and advancing that culture. This is when marriage becomes connected. This is where kids live the standards at a party, not just in front of you. This is where a frontline employee takes a risk to serve the needs of a customer that's not in a handbook. This is the point where culture stops being a conversation and becomes a functioning system. Here are the questions every founder should ask. Where does your culture sit on this continuum? Most companies believe they're sitting and operating at the third level, and they're probably still in the second. The true test is simple. When was the last time you saw a frontline team member enforce a standard with a coworker? When was the last time you saw a subordinate push back on a superior because of a perceived violation of company values? As the founder, when was the last time someone on your leadership team told you no in front of others? If these aren't routine occurrences in your marriage, family, or business, culture may be good, it may be productive, but it's not yet leadership culture.